Kamala Harris's book comes out today,
Mhm.
107 Days. And Kamala Harris has been doing a bit of a press tour, and
Mhm.
she did her first major stop on cable news last night on MSNBC.
Mhm.
There were a lot of things discussed in the interview, but there's one part that stood out to me, and it was her deciding to not quote unquote take the bait when it came to attacks on her blackness, on her racial
Mhm.
identity. Listen to this clip.
This is the part when Trump told an audience, National Association of Black Journalists told him that you happen to turn black and that you now wanted to be known as black. You say, on the plane that day when I first heard about Trump's remark, we patched in Brian Fallon, your senior advisor, communications advisor, on a call to strategize a response. Brian wanted me to punch back with a big speech about my racial identity, like the one Obama had given. I was so pissed that I didn't hold back. Are you effing kidding me? I was not about to take Trump's bait. He lies all the time, I told Brian. He throws out outrageous statements to distract from the real issues. Quote, today he wants me to prove my race. What next? He'll say I'm not a woman and I need to show my vagina? I don't even know if I can say that. Brian, on the other end of the phone, fell silent. I imagined the deep crimson of his blush. All right. So first of all, you made me say it.
That really happened.
Yes, but how do you decide? I mean, in the moment, particularly when it's so ridiculous, it's funny. How do you decide when to not take the bait and stay off the terms that he's trying to set for the debate, and when to punch back? What did you learn about that in the process of going up against him?
So, I also talk about, the first 2 weeks that I was the top of the ticket, we had no polling. No polling had been done on me. So it was my gut.
Yeah.
And so I came up with this speech that actually was about, I was a prosecutor. I dealt with people who engaged in sexual abuse. I was attorney general. I took on people who engaged in fraud, on and on and on. And so I know his type.
I remember this line, yeah.
And because there is, there's something about in the English language that phrase, I know his type, that does a lot of work for you. Because it's something we all relate to, whether it was that boss, it was that person, whatever. I know his type. And so the character that I knew I was running against is someone, because he has shown it also. I mean, he did it with President Obama. He did it with Secretary Clinton. He throws this stuff out that he thinks will be an individual's weakness or Achilles heel, with the intent to distract from the fact that, as it was in this campaign, he had no plan for actually bringing down costs and prices for the American people. He had very few plans for what he would actually do that was about the American people and not about an execution of his vengeance on his enemies. And I wasn't about to fall for that bait.
I wasn't about to fall for that bait. All right. So this was very interesting to me. This might be a minor thing that other people heard. I still stand by she was doomed. I know you feel a little bit differently, Reese, but I feel like she was doomed. There was no way to come back from the damage that had been done for 3 weeks when they pushed Joe Biden out. I still stand by that. That said, I did think it was a big mistake that she didn't tackle, as you have pointed out repeatedly, one of the largest tools of misinformation around her was that she wasn't really black. And Richard Fowler, a couple weeks ago, brought up Barack Obama's famous March of 2008 speech around race. And what kind of stunned me is that the guy she mentioned, Brian, I forgot his last name. He's
Brian
a white.
Fallon. Yeah, he's a white guy.
Yeah, thank you. And he encouraged her to have this speech. In my mind, I thought that maybe the team was telling her, don't talk about race, don't talk about gender. I kind of thought that that was maybe the team. But to hear that it was her, and respectfully, and I say this respectfully, there were other things that she didn't, shut down. But she shut down what could have been a really powerful, speech on race and where we are right now as a country. And so I went back and I listened to Barack Obama's March of 2008 speech on race. I know it was a different time. I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
Obama's different, but I want to play two clips and to give it some context for our younger listeners. Obama, his pastor was Reverend Jeremiah Wright, and some clips that went viral for the time of Reverend Jeremiah Wright talking about race. And Obama gives this masterful speech.
Yeah.
It was
a
really
great speech.
it was great, and it was what we needed at the moment. Listen to this.
Some commentators have deemed me either too black or not black enough. We saw racial tensions bubble to the surface during the week before the South Carolina primary. The press has scoured every single exit poll for the latest evidence of racial polarization, not just in terms of white and black, but black and brown as well. And yet, it's only been in the last couple of weeks that the discussion of race in this campaign has taken a particularly divisive turn. On one end of the spectrum, we've heard the implication that my candidacy is somehow an exercise in affirmative action that is based solely on the desire of wild and wide-eyed liberals to purchase racial reconciliation on the cheap. Why associate myself with Reverend Wright in the first place, they may ask? Why not join another church? And I confess that if all that I knew of Reverend Wright were the snippets of those sermons that have run in an endless loop on the television sets and YouTube, if Trinity United Church of Christ conformed to the caricatures being peddled by some commentators, there is no doubt that I would react in much the same way. But the truth is, that isn't all that I know of the man. The man I met more than 20 years ago is a man who helped introduce me to my Christian faith. A man who spoke to me about our obligations to love one another, to care for the sick, and lift up the poor. He is a man who served his country as a United States Marine and who has studied and lectured at some of the finest universities and seminaries in the country, and who over 30 years has led a church that serves the community by doing God's work here on earth. As imperfect as he may be, he has been like family to me. He strengthens my faith, officiated my wedding, and baptized my children. Not once in my conversations with him have I heard him talk about any ethnic group in derogatory terms. I can no more disown him than I can disown the black community. I can no more disown him than I can disown my white grandmother, a woman who helped raise me, a woman who sacrificed again and again for me, a woman who loves me as much as she loves anything in this world, but a woman who once confessed her fear of black men who passed her by on the street, and who on more than one occasion has uttered racial or ethnic stereotypes that made me cringe. These people are part of me, and they are part of America, this country that I love.
One more brief clip about division that I want you all to hear, and then Reese and I will chop it up. Go ahead.
Resentment builds over time. Like the anger within the black community, these resentments aren't always expressed in polite company, but they have helped shape the political landscape for at least a generation. Anger over welfare and affirmative action helped forge the Reagan coalition. Politicians routinely exploited fears of crime for their own electoral ends. Talk show hosts and conservative commentators built entire careers unmasking bogus claims of racism while dismissing legitimate discussions of racial injustice and inequality as mere political correctness or reverse racism.
So I just want to say that I don't think that black politicians should shy away from race or feel like they can't talk about it. And maybe that's not what she was doing. Maybe Kamala Harris just felt like, I don't have to explain myself. I get it. But this is the country that we live in. And I think it was a mistake. I could be wrong. I don't know if it would have changed the election. So That was interesting to me, and I wanted to know what you thought, Reese, because you stressed this a lot, and some folks didn't like that you were saying it. And again, we'll never know if it would have been a deal breaker. But I think a powerful speech on race as a black woman could have at least been on the record. What are your thoughts?
I don't think she needed a whole ass speech. All she had to do was just affirm that she is a black woman, and people argue me down, argue me down, argue me down. And they were wrong. They were wrong. Because if you look and see how she fell off of black voters. She did. She did. That's crazy to fall off of black voters. But I said, going back to 2019, the number one thing they attacked her on was not that she was too black. You got this dumb bitch, Laura Loomer, jigsaw looking ass, calling Jasmine Crockett ghetto black bitch and Shaniquas and shit. That was never the attack against Kamala Harris. The attack was never that she was ghetto and that she was black and she was too black and she was just a soldier. That was never the attack on her. The attack on her was always that she wasn't really black. That was the thing that they attacked her on, because they knew that if the black community got behind Kamala Harris in the primaries, the way that the black community got behind Barack Obama, she would be the presidential nominee and she would probably be the president. And so it was political malpractice, this campaign, to not recognize and not combat the fact that the idea that she isn't really black was being weaponized very effectively against her. And people got pissed off at Janet Jackson and people got pissed off. But I'm telling you, as a person who constantly saw the attacks on her, and not just my anecdotal evidence, but the quantitative evidence, was that she was being attacked on the idea that she wasn't really black. You had the FBA and the ADOS and all of those people saying that she wasn't really black. She's an Indian woman and she got sworn in on, I don't even know. They said it wasn't the Bible. She got sworn in and all this stuff said that she was an Indian woman. And the part of the reason why that was such an effective attack against her was because of how she conducted herself. When she launched her campaign in 2019 and they asked her at Howard University, what are you? And she said, I'm American. Wrong answer. Wrong fucking answer. And then 2 days later on CNN, they asked her the same question. She still didn't say, I'm a black woman. Wrong answer again. And this is not me trying to beat up on Kamala Harris in 2024. I said in 2019, Kamala, you got to get this answer right, girl, because black people are not going to trust you if you don't claim black. Eventually, she did. She went on the Breakfast Club and she said she was black and I don't have to explain myself. The problem with her is that she thinks that she doesn't have to explain herself, and she does. She does. Barack Obama had to explain. Huh?
Why does she? Why does she?
Because everybody has to explain themselves. Everybody defines themselves. Now, everybody ain't define themselves as a black woman because you're the first black woman to be on a goddamn ticket. But Barack Obama had to define himself. And he was very, very, very clear on who he was. Every white candidate defines themselves. Joe was the scrappy kid from Scranton. Everybody.
Oh, Reese, why does she have to define herself according to being a black woman? Why does she have to say it that way? Why does she have to make that clear?
If you want to win black people's support, if you want to win even white people's support, people got to know who you are and what you stand for and what you're about. And it just
I guess in her mind, she's thinking it's obvious. I don't have to talk about it. It's obvious.
But it's not. Nothing is obvious when there is tens of millions of dollars or maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars invested in feeding disinformation about your identity. When there is all this money invested in convincing people that you don't claim black. I saw the attacks on her for years. Do you know how?
Barbershop. I saw it too.
Hello, this is not me saying this because I don't believe I know she black. I know she black. But you have to explain yourself when you want to win. If you don't want to win, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to say myself. I'm just going to then fine, cool. However, in this campaign now, when she was Joe Biden's vice president, they said, you gonna get your black ass out there and you gonna dance to Optimistic and we gonna send you to all the black shit and you gonna shout out black women in your convention speech and how black women the backbone of the woman. You gonna be black as fuck on this ticket. But when she ran her own campaign this time, she did not lean into that. And that was a mistake. And Donald Trump actually gave her an opportunity by saying that dumb shit in front of a room full of black people. And I think Roland was hollering at him and all kinds. She stood in front of black women at the Zeta convention.
Later on that day, right? Was it later on?
It was later on, yes. She had the ability to she could have set that shit off because we're not talking.
To your point, that could have been her Reverend Jeremiah Wright moment.
Yeah.
The former president of the United States, who reportedly once lied about a German background because he wanted to rent to Jewish folks in New York. This man had the Jim Crow audacity to question your blackness. You have a black woman's event later on that day. Again, not 37 minutes like Obama, but it could have been 5 minutes.
No, it could have been boom, boom, boom. She would have set it off. That would have been, everybody would have been talking about that shit. It would have been on the Shade Room, You know what made it on all those things? Trump saying that. You know what didn't make it? That's the same old tired playbook. The same old tired playbook. What the fuck is that? Boss up. Put your foot up his ass. So it really agitates me because I think that was a big mistake. Now, was that the difference? I'm not going to say it was the difference. That would be dumb to say that was the whole difference. But she always needed black people to be in her corner way more. And that was a key thing that was missing. And I think people who don't understand the scale and the length of the campaign of undermining her blackness really don't understand how much it was necessary for her to fight back on that.
And that said, all of that said, she was still 1,000 times better than Trump. And we do not live in a meritocracy.
We sure though.
Unbalanced, unfair, false equivalencies, double standards, all of that. I think we all know if she was president right now, things would not be perfect, but it would be a lot different.